All right, guys, in this episode, Craig talks about where he puts his finger when it's not pulling the trigger.
Hey guys, Craig Douglas here from ShivWorks, back for another season for Trigger Time TV. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about last season was the Trigger Time audience seems to be very observant and very educated. And I got a lot of feedback on last season's segments. Some of the feedback I got involved my trigger finger position when I was either holding a simunitions pistol, an inert pistol, or in a live fire. Several questions were posed to me on Facebook pages and in Facebook groups about what's going on with that and what I'm doing there. So I'd like to explain that. So usually when we learn something regarding the trigger finger, the way the rule is taught to us historically is finger off the trigger until sights are on target, finger off the trigger until the decision to fire has been made. So let's think about that for a second. Right now, my finger is off the trigger. Right now, my finger is off the trigger. Right now, my finger is off the trigger. And I think you can get where we're going with this. Guys, there are a whole bunch of offs. Rather than look at the rule as an ill-defined negative, I'd rather approach it as a well-defined positive. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick a point on the gun that we know definitively by feel is not the trigger. I'm going to refer to that position as a register position. So basically my trigger finger should only be one of two places. It should be in the shooting cycle or parked in or on that register position. Now, generally speaking, I believe that the further away from the trigger and the higher that the trigger finger is, the safer the register position. Why do I like this? Why do I think this is a better way of incorporating and teaching the rule regarding this? Well, we do a lot with guns besides shooting them. Sometimes we pick up a gun from the nightstand and we may walk through our house. Sometimes we may point a gun at space that we haven't visually cleared that we feel may threaten us. Sometimes we may point a gun at a person that for the moment we've decided not to shoot yet. And in all those cases, we see this phenomena that, for lack of better language, we call trigger checking, where the closer a person thinks they're getting to having to fire, we'll see the trigger finger creep back and forth, even if it is technically off the trigger. When we start looking at striker-fired guns, the way the hands work together, there's really not a lot of margin for error here. And personally, I observed this quite a bit in my law enforcement career, working simulations with police officers, maybe where an officer chases a guy into a back alley, he turns around, he can't see his hand. You'd see the officer point the gun at the guy and do something like this. Show me your hands, now, hands, hands. And you see that finger dancing around the trigger, not technically on the trigger, but dancing around. So I think when we start talking about striker-fired guns, all the things we have to do with the offhand that don't involve shooting, possibly holding the gun and using the gun as a compliance tool or maybe just something that we want in hand when we feel we may be threatened, I think this idea has a lot of merit. I had a Phoenix police officer here about 10 years ago that took a fall down a flight of stairs after he had trained with me, and despite the muzzle going everywhere, one thing he told me in the aftermath was, I felt my register the whole time. So I really think this is a better way to go, and I really think this is a good way to approach the rules. So finger stays in or on the register position, okay, until you're in the shooting cycle. Once you are out of that shooting cycle, park that register. I think you guys will find a lot of merit in this idea. So very, very, very simple thing to incorporate, okay? And in doing testing in live fire, there's not a significant amount of difference between this and this compared to this and this as far as speed. So I'm Craig Douglas, this is Trigger Time. Thanks for watching.